Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another year of the Lehocky Eagles postgame show on JAKIB Media and the YouTube channel and on 6abc.com. Well, listen, it looked like the Eagles were headed for kind of a ho-hum victory over New England Patriots, and then lightning struck. A big fumble by Jalen Hurts gave the Patriots a couple chances to get in this game. Philadelphia Eagle fans' hearts and minds all aflutter. The Patriots couldn't get it done at the end. Mac Jones failed to get it done to get his team in the end zone, and the Eagles survived their opener of the 2023 season, 25-20 over the New England Patriots on Tom Brady Day. So a big win for the Eagles, a big survival win for the Eagles. So let's introduce our panel here on the JAKIB Media Lehocky Eagles postgame show live from Ocean Casino. The usual guys, the usual suspects plus one today. We have Derek Gunn. We have Seth Joyner, and joining us, John McMullen, who wanted to be with us so badly today that he missed his flight to get up to the New England Patriots.
I had to see you, Mike Missinelli.
Well, I appreciate that, John. So fellas, let's try to decipher this whole thing. What exactly happened here? It looked like the Eagles were headed to just run this game out and win kind of easy and cover the spread, which was 3.5 or whatever, and then Jalen Hurts, a big fumble, leads New England Patriots back into the game, and he just couldn't get it done at that point, D-Gun, and the Eagles really were lucky to survive today.
Yeah, you know, there are games, Mike, that fall into the category, 'tis better to be lucky than good, and the Eagles get 2 early turnovers that lead to points, and of course, they get some stops when they needed them down the stretch. It wasn't pretty, but that was to be expected considering the regulars didn't play in the regular season. Luckily, they were playing a lesser opponent because who knows what might have happened in this game. But you know what? The bottom line is as the season goes along, you stack up the W's more than the L's. That's all that counts.
Yeah, and listen, they won a lot of games like this last year. But this was a game that I thought they kind of let the Patriots kind of play around a little bit because the Patriots were using the middle of the field, Seth. Mac Jones is not a big play quarterback. He doesn't have a lot of big play weapons, but they found a way to get the ball in the middle of the field to exploit the Eagles' linebackers and even their safeties in this game.
Well, we talked about it in pregame, and it was a problem all year long for the Philadelphia Eagles. Their coverage in the middle of the field. And you're going to begin to see more teams attack the middle of the field because the strength of the defense is the defensive line and your 2 cornerbacks, okay? The weakness in the defense is the middle of the field when you're talking about pass coverage. And it's been a problem for the longest. You know, I seen Lehocky Dean drop in the zone. He had a guy that crossed in front of him. As soon as he bit up on it, they hit the guy behind him. That's like elementary, 101 football. That a guy that came from one of the high-power colleges, he knows better than that. So then you got Zach Cunningham man-to-man on the tight end. He's running option routes. So these things are going to continue to happen as far as the Eagles' defense is concerned. And, when you got a guy like Mac Jones first of all, he's not going to beat you deep, okay? And he's not going to hold the ball long. So everything's coming out hot. Everything's coming out right now. So when you play against a quarterback like this, I think you need to be a little more man coverage. So you put the onus on the quarterback to wait for guys to get open rather than having guys just drop. And if guys don't match up properly in their zones, then there's always holes in the zones. And this is what you're going to see because this defense does not want to play aggressive, even though I was happy to see Sean Desai be a little more aggressive than he's been. But now when you got Lehocky Dean hurt, you're a lot less likely, to play some of these coverages that you played before because you're afraid of not getting the communication or guys not knowing exactly what they're doing. But the Eagles are very, very fortunate to come out of Foxborough with this win today.
Tale of 2 quarterbacks today. Mac Jones actually threw the ball 54 times today, 35 for 54, 316, and 3 touchdowns. But in the end, John, they got some pressure on him, and he kind of folded up a little bit in those last 2 drives with a chance to put the Patriots ahead.
A little bit, but can we talk about the head coach giving Mac Jones an opportunity to fold in the end? 4th and 2, I thought, Nick Sirianni sent the offense on the field. I said, all right, smart decision. Let's try to draw him off sides and then punt the football, make Mac Jones go the length of the field, which is not going to happen. No, he goes for it, and all of a sudden the Patriots could have won that football game. Now, from one hand, I say, look, this is a coach's dream, this type of win, because you can say, we won the football game, but I can complain about everything. Well, he can complain about himself first and foremost for keeping the Patriots in this game. I was astonished by it. The second part Seth brought up, the middle of the field on defense is weak to begin with. And then Lehocky Dean, we've been talking about it. He's undersized. He didn't make 60 minutes of football, guys.
No, he didn't.
A wise man told me he's a little light in the seat. You know, we're not going to see this guy. T.J. Edwards played 20 games last year. 20 games through the Super Bowl. Lehocky Dean didn't make it through one game. And remember, week 2 is Thursday night against Minnesota.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can get back on
John,
the field that quickly.
I'll say this, okay? Your point on Lehocky Dean is on point, but also your point about Nick Sirianni and his decision-making down the stretch. I think the NFL, D-Gun, has gotten to a place now where it's so faux pas to just go for it and go completely against the grain. I saw Andy Reid on Thursday night, okay? 2 minutes left in the game. You got 3 timeouts and a 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
When you go for it on 4th and 25 when you should be punting the ball.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that call. I just do not understand that call. Why would you go for it when they have proven that they can't drive the length of the field all day long? Now, they've had some sustainable drives, 13, 10, 10, but they got one single drive of over 50 yards, 2 of over 50 yards, and one they gave up on downs late in the game. The other one was early, and they got the touchdown. But why I don't understand this whole situation with these coaches where you feel like they got to gamble.
You know why? Because the analytics of football has taken away the thought process, the feel of the game from head coaches. Yeah. So many teams rely on a computer now to tell you when to go for certain things. It's taken away, and if you don't abide by, especially these young coaches, if you don't abide by what the organization wants, you may not have a job that long.
Well, think about it. It bit Bill Belichick today because this football team won by 5 points.
Yep.
If they don't turn it over on downs and they kick the field goal, that third to last possession, when Jalen Hurts fumbles that ball, they got a chance to kick a field goal and win this game by 1 point.
Exactly. We were talking about that when it happened. They went for it on 4th and 8. That would have been a 53-yard field goal. Okay, they have a rookie kicker, but they drafted him, so I assume they like him. And then they get to the 17-yard line, 4th and 3, and don't kick the field goal there with 9:32 left. So I don't know what's going on. How you think Belichick would be above that kind of thinking? But let's look at what he did defensively to the Eagles today, guys, because Jalen Hurts' numbers were pedestrian, 22 of 33, 170 yards. He did rush for 37 more, but it looked like they had him snuffed out pretty good. What kind of a defensive game plan were they using, Seth?
I just think that, the thing about Bill Belichick is that he's a fundamental and technique guy that lives by the motto, do your job. And we were talking about it in game. Like, when you create your front against the run, everybody's got a gap across the front. And normally what happens is if I've got the B gap and I got to keep this arm free and I stay in my B gap and he stays in his C gap, A gap, B gap, B, and we just stay there. Sooner or later, the running back's got to commit to where he wants to go. And if I'm standing there with an arm wide open, he's got to come right at me. So he comes right to me. But ultimately what happens is coaches harp, get to the ball, get to the ball, get to the ball. So I'm at my gap and I got my outside hand free. But I can see the running back over there. And the minute that I shed and go over here, the running back comes right back where I was. When you watch the New England Patriots play football, everybody stays where they are, okay? And the safeties, wherever they're supposed to fit, they get down and they fit. And they took the run game away from the Eagles early today. And then once they took the run game away, they became predictable as far as the passing game was concerned. And then I always say, when you can make a team one-dimensional, and they became one-dimensional, D-Gun, in the second half by play calling, not by anything that New England did, but by play calling. And listen, they just had their number. I did not expect for the New England Patriots to rack up 328 yards of offense and the Eagles to only rack up 251 yards of offense.
Well, that was typical Bill Belichick defense. You want to play for him, you better be very disciplined. And before the game, I talked about how I expected to see Belichick to play a lot of secondary personnel. He plays a lot of 3 safeties back there against teams that are pass-heavy teams. And sure enough, he would have 5-man front, he would have 5-man playing the back, and 1 guy roaming around in the middle. And they did an outstanding job on the edge of not over-pursuing Jalen Hurts and forcing him up in the pocket. It made him a little skittish at times when he tried to dip outside. Safety dropped down, forced him outside even further, make him do 2 things, throw the ball away or slide. And they did that consistently, and I don't think the Eagles were ready for that, number one, because the regulars didn't play all season. I expected them to come out rusty, okay? Number 2, they could never adjust to what Belichick was doing to them. Now, luckily, those 2 early turnovers were the defining moments in the success of this team today.
Yeah, the Eagles got 2 touchdowns off of turnovers. The field goal was at the end of a long drive, which they looked good on. They used Gainwell a lot in that first drive, and he had a nice game. But you're right, they were up 16-0. It looked like they were going to win this game easy, but they really hadn't done anything offensively. And then all of a sudden, New England comes back into the game, and it's 16-14 as they creep back in this game. Let's talk about they didn't use Boston Scott or DeAndre Swift hardly. DeAndre Swift was missing in action, and I also thought Goddard was missing in action today. They didn't really utilize either of those 2 guys, and both of those guys I thought would be really important for their offense.
Yeah,
John?
I think, Kenny Gainwell specifically, that first drive was really, really impressive, and I think he touched it 8 times. And D. Gunn mentioned the word discipline with Bill Belichick, which is right on defense. We had a first-time play caller here in Brian Johnson for the Eagles.
Yes.
I think when you script that early stuff and they're saying, all right, we're getting Kenny Gainwell involved, it's working really well, then you got to be disciplined as a play caller and say, well, I got to go back to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, because that's the meat of my offense. They never really got there until the second half. You got a little bit of A.J., then the drive with Devontae. Dallas Goedert, it reminded me of last year. Week 1, guys, you remember in Detroit, Devontae Smith did not have 1 catch against the Lions.
No.
This year it's Dallas Goedert, not 1 catch. So I think you got to get back into that disciplined play calling, and you got to have those names checked. I got to get the football to these guys. It's nice to get Kenny Gainwell involved. I think, I've been talking about him being the lead back for weeks now. Fans finally got to see it. I think he deserves it, but he's not the crux of this offense. And you got to get those guys involved earlier. And I'm talking about those big 3 receivers.
But I tell you what, Bill Belichick, to D. Gunn's point, he's a different animal. I'm looking at some of his coverages. It went 5 down, or they go 4 and bring an extra guy, with 5 guys behind and 1 D. And those guys those 5 down, they represent, an extra zone guy in zone coverage, because normally you're 4 under 2D, 4 under 3D. Well, those guys were lined up in a straight line across the defense, behind that, in front of that single safety, and they're lined up at 7, 6, 8 yards. And it's very hard for Jalen Hurts to look at the situation and really decipher what they're in, because they're not moving until the ball is snapped. Sometimes they just play zone. Sometimes they would drop down and match up in man. Other times, they would just zone match. As soon as the guy comes in your zone, you just latch onto him, and he's your guy. So if it's early downs, what worked in the first half is basically Jalen was just taking what the defense was giving him, taking what they were giving. Then he got a little impatient in the second half, and of course, you always want to push the ball down the field, but the objective is to move the chains. So you got to keep taking what they're giving and just move the chains, keep making first downs, and try to score every single possession and keep putting New England behind the chains. You got a 16-point lead, and then boom, boom, all of a sudden, you're down 2 points at halftime, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what adjustments do we have to make? Just keep doing what got you to 16 beyond the 2 turnovers.
Would you guys agree that Brian Johnson is going to take a lot of heat between now and Thursday night?
I don't know if it's going to be a lot of heat, but I think he's going to get questions, and he should, because if you talk about those 2 turnovers, as you mentioned, Mike, and then we haven't even mentioned Jake Elliott, probably the MVP of this game,
no question,
banging through 50-yarders with ease. The offense was like, wasn't great.
Well, they punted 4 straight times at one point in the
5
first
straight
half.
times, yeah,
and to be fair, Goddard was open a couple times, and Hurts didn't see him. He missed him a couple times, and then they showed that pretty closely.
This is the reason why I'm not the greatest fans of the guys not playing, because their timing and their rhythm is off.
Right.
Jalen looked rushed. He looked uncomfortable today. Normally, he doesn't miss. Like that ball he threw to A.J. Brown when he was wide open, he had Dallas Goedert crossing, and Romo talked about it in the telecast. He normally doesn't miss stuff like that. But it's like he predetermined and made up his mind that that's where he was going with the ball, instead of going through his natural progressions where he could see everything. But that's what happens when you don't play and you feel and you get uncomfortable. You know, he got uncomfortable. His first game he's played, didn't play any in the preseason. So everything is off, you know, the intensity level is up, the adrenaline is up, you know, and instead of everything being even keel and him being his normal even keel self, he just didn't look like he had it today.
Yeah, I agree. So where do we sit now when we look at this game? You know, first game, I thought Belichick would have the advantage in this game. He's had a lot of time to study what the Eagles do to come up with a pretty decent defensive game plan. But, you know, they win the game. You know, and so they're still the better team. They win a game where it got a little hairy at the end, but they were clearly one of these. They're the dominant team, and the dominant team is going to, like they did last year. They always found a way to win games.
They got lucky today, man.
They did, but they got lucky against a team that wasn't going to really take it from them.
But it wasn't a dominant performance. When you sit, the Eagles only had 17 first downs.
No, totally not a defensive a survival game, really.
I mean, it's hard to say that they're the dominant football team when the opposing team has 7 more first downs than you have, and they outgained you almost by, 130 yards.
At the end of the day, though, they're a better team than the Patriots.
Well, they're going to be a better day, okay? But
Did you ever get the feeling, Seth, that the Patriots are going to win this game?
No.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I think
my point is.
But I didn't get the sense that the Eagles had a chance of losing this game until Jalen Hurts fumbled that ball. When he fumbled that ball, I'm like, oh my God.
But again, the other team has to be good enough to take advantage of that. That's where I think the Patriots are a little short.
Yeah, but you know, with it being the first game of the season, as we see across the board, Mike, you saw some raggedy football across the board. And that's to be expected because everybody doesn't play the starters that much. Now, Andy Reid is an exception to that rule. Andy Reid played his starters 2 of the 3 first games in the preseason, and yet they still lost their opening game because they didn't have Travis Kelce in there. So that's to be expected. But in terms of what we expect from this Eagles offense, nobody was under the illusion that this new-look defense was going to come out and hit the ground running, and it has some rough edges to smooth out. But we expected the offense to be a lot smoother than it was today. And it wasn't, directly because they didn't play.
Listen, in the pregame, Mike, I said, I feel like the defense is going to have to carry the offense through the first phase and the first phase is the first 4 to 6 games.
Right.
You know, so where they are is, you know, they go back to the drawing board, and they really got to look at themselves in the mirror because they can't play like this. You know, they're not going to get lucky like they got tonight against other teams. Like Minnesota's not that good, but Minnesota would have found a way to win this game.
Probably, but I'll say this: I think there were 8 games of won. 7 of them were under 40 points total. So everybody was struggling offensively.
Everybody struggled,
Eagles were no different. I think they'll settle down. They'll start to out-talent people. That's why I said this is a great win for the coaching staff because you can complain about everything, but you came out of there with a win. That's a great win.
Let's talk about the
I don't care how you get it. Get the W. I don't care how you get it.
Listen, I get it too, but you know my motto. Okay?
Oh, I know.
What we see today is a future representation of what we may see down the line. Okay, and when you talk about this offense, as potent and as powerful and as explosive as this offense was last year, I just expected more than what I saw today out of this offense.
Talk a little bit about the defense. Now, when we were watching this game, and Seth, I know you were making the point that they're not going to have the same success sacking the quarterback this year. They didn't today. Hassan Reddick was kind of out of sorts. I guess the thumb is still not there, and it affected him a little bit. They didn't get really the outside pressure on him. But in the middle, Jalen Carter nearly got home a lot.
Right.
I mean, he got a lot of push. I think he had 4 pressures in the first half alone. And the only reason that it was defeated is because Mac Jones is getting the ball out of his hand quickly.
Listen, he's going to be a problem long term. You can just see it. The kid is unblockable. I give Fletcher Cox, a couple of nods.
Late in the game, Fletcher was big.
Those 2 plays back-to-back, they were huge at that point in the game. But even Milton Williams early on played well.
Yeah.
So I think they're solid at the defensive tackle position. Jordan Davis played well. I think I don't know whether they gave it to him or not, but he looked like that first sack that they had on Mac Jones.
I think they gave him a half.
He got half of it. I mean, that's a big deal for a guy that, I personally said, is not a pass rusher. But, listen, 70 sacks to me in the regular season is like 27-2, okay? It's not going to happen again. That's an anomaly.
Seth is exactly right, because you know what? First off, quarterbacks understand the pass rush, so they're going to get the football out.
Absolutely.
You saw it week 1. I mean, that's part of the game plan. We got to get the football out quickly, and other quarterbacks will start to do that as well. To me, the bigger numbers, those pressures you mentioned, Mike, because those are consistent. And Jalen Carter made Mac Jones get out of the football, made him hurry up, and that could be just as important when that starts turning into pick sixes. Darius Slay, if the quarterback is hurried, that can have the same impact or even a better impact than a sack at times.
What did you think of the cornerbacks today, D?
You know what? They played about the way I expected against inferior opponents. Now, New England doesn't have field stretchers out there, and when I'm talking about wide receivers that can flat out go, they got some underneath stuff. They hit him with some slant stuff, but for the most part, Sean Desai got what he wanted. He wanted to keep a lot of stuff in front of him. Now, obviously, the tight end situation is another problem, because the tight ends killed this team last year, and Hunter Henry and Gesicki killed this team in the middle of the field. But I thought the corners played well. Slay took advantage of a ricochet pass, took it to the house, 70 yards for a touchdown. They did what they were supposed to do for the most part.
And Blankenship had some moments today. He got beat on a touchdown on the one play, but I thought he played pretty well.
Yeah. Well, see, when you got to consider, too, they started Justin Evans and Blankenship side by side.
Yeah.
That's a lot of inexperience in the center of your field. And I'm sure there's some communication gaps that have to be worked on and things like that. That's going to come with time. And eventually Sidney Brown is going to be worked into this mix. So you're still going to have a trio of young players who are still evolving. And as they evolve, once they get past teams like Washington, then you start stepping up playing the big boys like the Mahomes, the Aaron Rodgers, the Josh Allen, so on and so forth. So by that time, hopefully they will iron out any deficiencies that they might have at this point.
All right, so we have so many. First of all, I'll explain that John McMullen is here on the set with us, and I need to get this out here, because John was supposed to take a flight to Boston today. This morning, I find this incomprehensible. Like, the flight got canceled. There was not another flight to Boston from Philadelphia. And I'm like, what is that about? I need somebody from the airport to explain this to me. What?
I need somebody to explain it to me.
There's not another flight that goes to Boston?
I don't want to rip the airline, because who knows? It could be a sponsor down the road. But understand.
Not only that, you could be putting a cargo hold next time.
Understand, I'm not happy with this particular airline, which, by the way, is a very large airline that has a hub in Philadelphia. That's what I'll tell you. So you can figure it out.
Go ahead and call them out, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, John's normally at the game, giving us the live report, following the game with, he's got the emotion and the action of the game.
Mike, Alaska Air could have gotten me to Boston through Seattle. So I'll give them credit.
The route was through Seattle
to Boston. Yeah. Only, I think about 12 hours total.
What is going on here with that? I mean, that's ridiculous. In any event, we're going to also introduce the new member of the panel today. Kayla Santiago will join us in a little bit. And Mark Farzetta, if we didn't have enough stars coming in here, Mark Farzetta will join us in a little bit. So let's take our first break, because I got to tell you about if you're having trouble finding talent for your company in IT, technology, engineering, and manufacturing, if you're looking to hire right now, in the IT, engineering, manufacturing, or technology fields, then contact Gary Kane and his team at Kane Partners Staffing Solution. And here's how you can connect.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
All righty. We're back on the show. 25-20 was your final day. The Eagles, more of a survival than an accomplishment maybe, but again, this is a good team. Good teams are expected to win games when maybe they haven't played their best. They did that today. We're going to continue with the Pond Lehocky Eagles post-game show. Mark Farzetta will join us on the panel right